Today, I'm excited to bring you Suzanne Picard. Suzanne was one of my very first teachers when I started the Rolf Institute here in Boulder, Colorado, a little over 10 years ago. She also played the role of being my mentor in some one-on-one deep work, and she's a colleague. And not only that, but now we have been office mates for about a little over 3 years. So we share an office space, and she's become a good friend of mine. So it was a treat to get to interview her for the podcast. So Suzanne has been she's a certified advanced Rolfer as well as a Rolf movement therapist. She's been in practice for over 30 years, which is incredible work. She's also a teacher. She teaches cranial sacral. She is a cranial sacral practitioner, is well-versed in visceral work. And she's been a faculty member of the Rolf Institute since 1996. She also, outside of her extensive bodywork practice and teaching, she holds an MFA in sculpture, so Master in Fine Arts. And so she has an art background as well as current art. So make sure to check out both of her websites. We have linked both. There is one specifically for her artwork, which is really beautiful. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Suzanne. I believe that she has a really gentle, solid, and grounded perspective when it comes to relating to your own body, relating to other bodies, how to be in this world, this hectic world, and in a way that can be really intentional and thoughtful, and fulfilling. So I hope you enjoy the episode.
Oh my God. So
before and after.
After. So here, I was a Rolfer. I was a Rolfing instructor. I was so embodied. But in all seriousness, I had spent a lot of time, observing my structural patterns. It's one way as Rolfers we learn about doing the work is we observe our own patterns. We go through the work together in a classroom situation while learning anatomy and then working on our bodies. And so we build up a lot of information or thoughts or knowledge about our bodies. And so I had all of that. And then you have a couple babies that go through, you have the whole pregnancy in which your body is changing day to day. And then you have a child go through your pelvis, and I felt like I had a whole new body. And it was like, wow. And, in order to have a baby also energetically, your vata, to use that term, expands. And one of the things like an Ayurvedic midwife will do afterwards is you have a hot water bottle under your sacrum to begin to bring your energy back into you. So I felt like I was the size of the room, and at the same time, my body was completely different. So it was one of the times in my life when I felt like I had to start like, okay, what is this body? Where is my femur in relationship to my knee? Where is my pelvic floor? Oh my God, whose breasts are these? Because
yeah.
And as women too, we're doing it so much more now, but there's not back then too. Now there's a little more conversations about what it was like those first couple of weeks. What's it like if your milk doesn't come in, if your milk does come in, if you go out in public and all of a sudden you're like leaking all over the place. It's a very leaky process. And then of course we navigating all the cultural things about it wherever you are in the world is another piece altogether. But so it was kind of in some ways like having to start over. The good thing is, I had had a lot of practice, but it was like, okay, let's rebuild. What is the map now? Talk about walking into a new river. This one was on a different continent.
How do you get it back to like the same continent sphere that you're in? Wow.
And it's never going to be the same.
Right. And was that hard to accept, or you were just in it? This is the process. This is just what is.
Oh, it was a bit devastating.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like I was cut off a little bit from my body. At the
Yeah.
same time, it was such a visceral experience, but it was like, yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes you just got to do it. I wouldn't say I was like, oh, I'm at peace with this, but it's like it got better. It got a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I could imagine it would be devastating, right? Like this body's totally different. This isn't what you know, and you're someone who
Mhm.
knew your body and know your body still very, very, very well from a
Yep.
deep level. And
Yep.
yeah.
And now all of a sudden, well, and all the other changes that go along with parenthood and motherhood.
Yeah.
So not having as much time to myself
Yeah.
to do my practices and, you know, really talk about being in service of others. It's not like, oh, I think I'm going to see 5 clients today. It's like, oh, you have a cold. Okay, that's going to change everything. Or, oh my God, you've developed a rash. Now we have to do this. Or, you know, and having kids is wonderful. And I loved my kids, but it's like, there's a lot.
It's a lot.
And then balancing that self and other.
Let's talk about that, because I remember when I was first starting out my practice, I was really interested in really specifically niching and working with postpartum women. And I remember you and I meeting up and having a couple conversations. You were really supportive with me in that. And I still like love working with pregnant women, love working with postpartum women.
Yeah.
It's such like a gift for me to get to support them in that way. And I've been sharing a lot I do like a little Monday embodied musings video. I don't, in previous months, because this won't come out for a little while, but I've shared a few videos talking about the front of the spine. And so I'd love for you, I remember way back then, you even sharing, you know, from a piece of a new mom and, you know, establishing some of her own autonomy little by little, bringing that back after birth is even this connection of connecting from ground feet into front of spine and feeling that. So I think for anyone, mom, not mom, any person who's listening to this could be really helpful in relationship to have you speak to that and how you know, if there are structures in the body that you see like are helpful and supporting to in regards to creating a distinction between self and other.
Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing is not a Rolfing thing or anything at all.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't need to be at all.
yeah, I mean, one of the simplest things, honestly, is to pay attention to your skin. Because our skin is literally the boundary between, you know, our physiology and the environment around us. And so you can just get in the shower or bathtub with a scrubby or a face cloth, and just go over your skin. Ayurvedically, what they would have you do, and you can do it in the shower with soap. You can also do it with sesame oil too. It's up to you how much time you want to spend. But if so, you could just do big broad strokes, you know. And if you want to do it lymphatically, you would move everything towards the heart. But basically, we're doing it here to feel the skin. So you're mapping your skin, you're paying attention. And when you pay attention to sensation, the brain will map where everything is. Ayurvedically, then you would do circles around the joints while you're mapping, and you would do long strokes on the long bones, and then circles around the joint. You can also dry brush, which I do this almost every day, where I will be going, actually, I do go in the direction of the heart, and I'm just, you know, dry brushing the skin with a soft brush. And again, doing it with awareness maps where you are in space.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And that's so great to bring in that very true thing that's happening from a physiological level, that map, it is mapping.
It is.
And so especially if there's a part of your body that you know, when you do check in, you notice you have a hard time feeling or dissociating from, great information to maybe spend longer there.
Absolutely.
Or if it's maybe a part of your body that you don't like, maybe spend longer just giving touch, not trying to, you know, bypass the fact that you don't like it. You just be like, okay, I just got to be positive. No, just touch it.
Just touch it.
Just touch that part of your body.
Whatever happens, any emotion that happens with it is what's there, is what's real.
Yeah.
And yeah, physiologically, the cutaneous nerves, we have a lot of nerves
Which
in
are
our
the nerves in the
skin.
skin. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the cutaneous surface skin nerves, they go deeper, 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 all the way to your spinal cord, and then all the way to your brain. So, when you're touching your skin, and the nerves on your skin, yes, it does map, and it goes all the way in to the spine and that whole central channel, the whole central nervous system.
That's so great to know. I just had Gil Headley. I just interviewed him Monday, and he was talking about his nerve project briefly.
The nerve tour coming to a city near you.
And just briefly naming, as he was, working to just seeing those nerves from that level to all the way to spinal. And so is there for you in relationship to what we're talking about? Yeah, go.
One thing you could say too is in osteopathy, there's Hinton's law, and Hinton's law works with that. So that if you're working on the skin over a joint or the skin over an organ, the nerves from the skin go into that joint and go into that organ. So when you're working on the skin, yes, it's going to the spinal cord, but you can also, if you have a shoulder injury or your liver's having a hard time, working the skin on those areas is affecting the nerves that go into that organ.
That's great.
So,
and that's something anyone can do.
Anyone can do.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to take a lot of time.
No, it does not.
You're sitting on the toilet, touch your liver.
Absolutely.
But yeah, really.
Just be aware of it. If you're just sitting there watching TV and doing this, that's when it doesn't work so well.
It's a good point.
So, I do work sitting in the John, but you do want to bring awareness.
Came to me.
Well, I love my bathroom and my bathtubs.
I know. I was envisioning. I was thinking about. I was like, oh, I haven't done Abhyanga in a while. I always rub oil on myself, but I haven't been really slow. And I'm was visualizing myself laying in my bathtub, so then I could be in a bath right after, full of oil. I was like, when am I going to do that?
Maybe tonight.
Yeah, soon. So I was curious in a relationship to what we're talking about, what you think of, because I feel like the front of the spine, there's so much magic.
There is.
And yeah.
So more about front of spine.
And if you need a more specific question, happy to, but
well, the next place my mind goes with it, which still may not be quite what you're getting to, because I feel like you're getting to more structure, but it makes me think about the parasympathetic nervous system.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't have a main. I just wanted you to talk about that area. I'm curious.
So part of, so I think people know, well, there's parasympathetic and sympathetic. And it's not like one's all good or one's bad. Every time we breathe in, we actually become a little more sympathetically charged. And that's how we rise to meet the occasion. But on the extreme, it would be fight or flight is sympathetic. And, generally, I mean, there's a lot of trauma happening in the world right now. And, that's a sympathetic charge. And even in our day-to-day life, our busyness that we have, we tend to live way over in the sympathetic area. Now, the parasympathetic is the rest and the feed and the restore. It's where all of the repair happens in the body, and it's where we come back to ourselves, and it's where that remapping can really happen. So if you're doing the dry brushing like this, that's one thing, but being slow with it doesn't have to take a long time, but being in that restful, yielding place with it activates the parasympathetic, and that is a place of rest, repair. It's where healing comes from. It's where flow states for the brain come from. And the front part, and that is intimately connected with a nerve we call the vagus nerve. And a big chunk of that vagus nerve goes down that front of the spine. And the social engagement part of it goes from our face, our eyes, and goes down that front of the spine. The older part of the parasympathetic is kind of from our diaphragm down. And then the younger evolutionary part of that goes from our diaphragm up and connects heart and face very specifically. So, so again, coming back to ourselves, I mean, it is part of our engagement system, but it's also our relationship with ourselves and where that ability to rest and repair comes from. So the vagus nerve, if people are interested in going more into rest and repair and cultivating, I think a lot of what I do is cultivate the parasympathetic. And there are some resources that you can use. The Pocket Guide to Polyvagal Theory by Stephen Porges is a wonderful interviews. It's interviews that he's done about the vagus nerve and the social engagement system and cultivating that. So that's kind of a more scientific approach to it. And then Tricia Hersey wrote a wonderful book called Rest is Resistance, which really also looks, she did a lot of somatic work in her graduate degree in divinity. She was able to take a lot of somatic classes and actually does connect it in with a lot of very body-centered things, and really looks at how in our culture we don't value rest. And rest is cultivating the parasympathetic. So that's another really good resource.
I'll make sure we have both of those books in the show notes too.
Yeah.
And
then, there are other practices. I do Kayut yoga, which is definitely cultivates parasympathetic, and brain mapping of our body is a real emphasis for them. So those are some resources. There are plenty more out there, but those are three things that are very good.
Those are really helpful.
So, the other thing that I think from a more of a Rolfer's point of view, if I may just keep going, I'm like on a train here, is that as we cultivate midline, which is that anterior part of our body, as we cultivate that, it gives us a sense of our midline, our individuality, that center channel. And then from there, we can connect out into the whole of the world. But the more things we do that deal with the central channel, it can give us our sense of individuation as well. Not isolation, but individuation within the web or the matrix.
It's a really good distinction. Not isolation, but individuation within it.
Exactly.
It's distinctly different.
Because we need both.
And I think my own even just personal experience is the more I'm connected into my own self through exactly what you're talking about, the more connection I feel with others, with the web of life. When I'm dull, deadened, too busy, distracted, whatever it may be, to really allow myself to cultivate, to slow down, to feel into where is Emily, how is Emily, any of those questions, that's when then too I think I feel more isolated, or I feel more disconnected or separate.
And for me, if that central line is not strong, and part of that is also, deep core training. I mean, even doing wall sits with a ball between your knee, feeling that, which is just physically feeling that central channel. If that is not alive and vibrant and strong, have some strength to it, then other parts of my physical or emotional structure will hold to try to prop me up. The more I'm like right there, then I can just be at ease. And part of that is the energetic and that sense of connection. And both of you and I do things at the gym and otherwise to keep that center area strong. As it helps to have some oomph.
I love having oomph.
Oomph is good.
Just good. So I'd love to just, if someone's wanting to to kind of wrap us and close question. I think we could go on for a while.
Oh, it'd be fun.
But we'll have you back for another season.
Oh, that's sweet.
But what would you suggest is there a practice, a tip, suggestion if somebody's wanting to live a more embodied life, like on a daily basis? And maybe it's something you've already shared, but we could just emphasize that.
Absolutely. I mean, I know you'll have links to the resources I mentioned, so I do think that those books are wonderful. Another shout out for the Rest is Resistance book for those who like Audible. The author reads it on Audible, and she is a poet, and she has beautiful. And so, get in the bathtub and listen to Rest is Resistance.
That sounds great. I'm gonna do that after I do my Abhyanga. Once I'm ready to soak. I'm ready.
But I think, I do think Kayut Yoga has been a great thing for me. And they do hold classes online as well as being in the classroom. That's been a real mainstay recently. Another thing that would be very simple to do is, I think we all know a lot of the benefits for journaling. And what I understand from looking at the research is if you journal for just 2 minutes a day, you actually get most of the benefits from journaling.
Wow, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. It doesn't mean that if you didn't do 10 minutes or
I always try to do
your
10. 10 minutes is what I have. I don't always make it. So I love that. I'm like, oh, okay, 2 minutes.
Or we used to do artist pages back in the day, and that was like, I think 20 or 30 minutes, which is a lot. But I think the research shows that at 2 minutes, you start really reaping the benefits. And so I go, okay, all I have to do is 2 minutes. And then sometimes I do more, but that 2 minutes really begins to slow me down.
I love that.
And looking at, how I want to, let my velocity kind of settle. Anything that lets your velocity settle, lets you rest. I would say the journaling for 2 minutes a day, or just resting for 5 minutes a day, where you turn off your phone, you turn off your computer, no dings.
It's amazing to me what 5 minutes can do.
5 minutes is amazing.
It's amazing.
And it's it's that consistency, as you pointed out, what's something you could do every day, because really just doing that 2 minutes or that 5 minutes every day begins to reap so many benefits. And I just want to put a plug out there in that I really, there's a lot of issues facing our world right now. And to meet those, I feel like our humanity, our community, our centeredness, our creativity is necessary in looking at these complex things that are coming our way. And that when we are rested and when we cultivate that enjoying of the moment. I mean, resting can be just taking the 2 minutes. We're in Boulder right now, and it's the most magnificent fall day.
It is.
And just taking 2 minutes to sit there and feel the sun and look at the colors and appreciate that there's no other day like this moment right now. To me, that's presence and that's embodiment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So where can listeners find more about you and your work? And Suzanne's also, if you're not local, she's a beautiful artist. I don't know if your website will be up or not, but doesn't matter. They could still, you should look at her art.
So SuzannePicard.com is my Rolfing bodywork website. And that's fully operational, and you can send me email and all of that. So that's a static website. And then SuzannePicardArt.com is the website. It is up, but it is not, fully fleshed out. It will. It has an e-commerce potential that has not been realized yet, but there is some artwork up on that, and there will be more, and that'll be ongoing.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure if somebody's interested in that, they could go to your website, find your contact info.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And give me a holler.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's my honor. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Suzanne, for being here and for your time and for meeting in person in our office, which is especially sweet. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I know I'm inspired. I just want to go sit by a tree and look at leaves for a little bit. I'm like, I think I'm going to do that at some point this afternoon. In my head, I was like, I got a boom, boom, boom afternoon. And I'm like, yeah, no, we're going to take 10 minutes and sit upon a tree and just be.
Just be.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Go check out Suzanne's work. Everything will be linked, and take care.